Our leaders worship multiculturalism, so we encourage immigrants to reject our culture in favor of their own, because all cultures are equal, except that they're not all equal.
That's Tucker Carlson, Fox News anchor, anti-immigration propagandist, hero to white supremacist, and the first eliminated contestant from Season 3 of Dancing with the Stars. Tucker Swanson McNear Carlson was born in San Francisco in 1969 to Dick, an established television anchor turned ambassador to the Seychelles, and to Lisa, Tucker's mother, who left for France when Tucker was just 6. And the rest of the Carlsons' stay in San Francisco didn't last much longer. They packed up and left too, but with each other. After Lisa left the family, Carlson's father married Patricia Swanson, heiress of the frozen TV dinner empire Swansons. The wealthy couple raised Tucker and his brother Buckley in La Jolla, California, before sending Tucker out to the East Coast. When Tucker was 14, he was sent to the prestigious, ridiculously expensive Rhode Island boarding school St. George's. It was here that a young teenage Tucker started sporting a bow tie and arguing for the Republican ideology. The school held after-dinner debates, and Tucker couldn't get enough of them. His study habits quickly took a back seat to organized teenage arguments. When senior year rolled around, he had failed to make a name for himself outside of the debating circle. Universities weren't sold on him, but lucky for Tucker, he was dating the headmaster's daughter, who eventually convinced the expensive Trinity School in Connecticut to take on the young bow-tied Republican. Carlson's love for debate continued at the school his soon-to-be wife's dad got him into. He also had a newfound love, drinking. He reportedly spent most of his days at Trinity wasted, and it's unclear whether or not he was when the following took place. The CIA once came to campus to recruit some graduating seniors. Liberal students held protests, which ended in a school debate. After those who were anti-CIA made their points, Tucker was asked to speak for the pro-CIA side, and so eloquently he did. Honestly, what I really think is you're all a bunch of greasy chicken. That's all he said before walking out. Carlson graduated with a bachelor's in history from Trinity in 1992. Upon graduation, he tried to get a job working for the CIA, but unfortunately the federal agency didn't want him. Even if he did call the agency's critics greasy chicken, his dad said he should try his hand at journalism because they'll take anybody. He was right. Carlson landed at Policy Review as a fact-checker. I ended up working for this magazine because the standards are so low, Carlson told the Columbia Journalism Review. From there, he went on to work for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. He wrote a number of articles and even a book called People vs. Crime: How Citizens Can Restore Order to America's Streets. But after finding out he didn't know how to restore order to America's streets, he reimbursed the publisher's advance and canceled the book deal. If only there was a book to teach him. In 1995, he went on to write for the Weekly Standard. While Carlson did pen articles on the political climate of the late 90s, he also spent a lot of his time writing articles about squirrels pissing on his roof, how he did all the drugs from Fear and Loathing, and another surely no one clicked on just titled Tater Tots. Through the late 90s, Carlson started popping up on various news broadcasts. His transition to television was handed to him when he was in the right place at the right time. In his 2003 book, Carlson writes, "I was heading back to my desk with a takeout hot dog one afternoon when I ran into the receptionist. She asked me what I knew about the OJ trial. My instinct was to answer honestly, just about nothing. But for some reason, I caught myself. I asked her why she wanted to know. Well, she explained, Dan Rather's booker just called looking for an OJ expert to go on 48 Hours Tonight. Everyone else is still at lunch. Can you do it?" He must have killed, because after putting his hot dog down to become an OJ expert, Carlson was a regular on television. He once joked that if O.J. Simpson didn't murder his wife, he wouldn't have a career in TV. But because O.J., according to Carlson, did murder his wife, Tucker landed a job at CNN. After co-hosting The Spin Room, a show canceled within months, Carlson co-hosted Crossfire, a debate show. A few short years after taking the job, comedian Jon Stewart came on the program and called Carlson a dick and accused him of hurting America.
It's not so much that it's bad as it's hurting America. So I wanted to come here today and say,
wait.
Here's just what I wanted to tell you guys.
Yeah.
Stop.
The show was canceled shortly after Jon Stewart's intervention. John Klein, CNN's president at the time, said, "I agree wholeheartedly with Jon Stewart's premise." But MSNBC didn't. Carlson went on to host a show of his very own, creatively called Tucker, where he revealed what's on his mind 24/7.
You're aware that the average man has a porno movie on a continuous loop going in his brain at all times, and you don't?
I've been told that more or less. I have a hard time believing it, but if you say so.
So why aren't you the most successful man in the world?
The network canceled the show due to low ratings in 2008. In May of '09, Fox News just couldn't resist Carlson's past record of consistently getting canceled and decided to give him a shot. First as a contributor, then as a substitute guest host for Sean Hannity's show. Unlike everywhere else Carlson had been up to this point, including Dancing with the Stars, Fox News saw something in him.
He's really asleep.
On the side, he continued to build up his resume. In 2010, he launched the site The Daily Caller, the website home to headlines like Jennifer Love Hewitt's Cleavage, A History, and 13 Syrian refugees we'd take immediately, which is just a list of photos featuring seriously hot women. In 2015, Daily Caller staffers got into an argument with a spokeswoman for New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio after they ran a piece on him. The mayor's spokeswoman, Amy Spittelnick, had requested a correction to the piece. Carlson, angry with her request, fired back, "Outside of New York City, adults generally write polite, cheerful emails to one another, even when asking for corrections. Something to keep in mind the next time you communicate with people who don't live on your island." For some reason, Carlson's brother Buckley got in on the fun. Buckley responded, "Whiny little self-righteous bitch. Appalling, and with such an ironic name too, Spittelnick. Ironic because you know she just has extreme dick fright. No chance has this girl ever had a pearl necklace. Spooge neck? I don't think so. More like labia face." After the charming email chain saw the light of day, Tucker responded to BuzzFeed about the incident. "I just talked to my brother about his response, and he assures me he meant it in the nicest way." So of course, Fox News decided to give him his very own show. Days after the 2016 election, Carlson landed the biggest gig of his life, hosting Tucker Carlson Tonight. The premiere was the most watched telecast of the year in that time slot. His show advertises itself as the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. After Bill O'Reilly was forced out of the network for settling sexual harassment allegations out of court, Carlson took his time slot. He may have played it safe on Dancing with the Stars, going with a classic cha-cha routine, but when he's behind the desk with a camera in his face, he goes much harder, saying things that have white supremacists cheering him on.
What precisely is diversity our strength? Since you've made this our new national motto, please be specific as you explain it. Do you get along better with your neighbors or your coworkers if you can't understand each other?
Among the 91% white audience tuning into Fox, a few stand out, as a Vox explainer first noted. First, former Grand Wizard of the KKK, David Duke. He's tweeted his support for Carlson numerous times. Duke's called Carlson a hero for exposing white ethnic cleansing, and he even has a nickname for his favorite host, Tucker Knows Carlson. Cute. Joining the former KKK Grand Wizard at the Tucker Carlson fan club table is white supremacist Richard Spencer. He's described Carlson as a much better figure than Bill O'Reilly because Carlson has open-mindedness. The neo-Nazi white supremacist website, The Daily Stormer, also got in on the fun. They noted, Tucker Carlson is basically Daily Stormer the show, and other than the language used, he is covering all of our talking points. The article then goes on to throw Jewish slurs at Michael Cohen. With viewership like that, it's not surprising that the president also tunes in. A source close to Trump said, they aren't personally close. He's not getting strategic advice from him directly the way he might from a Hannity, but they do chat on occasion, mostly Trump complimenting a segment here and there. He definitely likes him, and it's not unusual for him to be exposed to issues through Tucker's show and others. One particular issue that made its way from Carlson's show to the White House was a segment where Carlson claimed a large-scale killing of white farmers is currently taking place in South Africa. The segment was filled with chyrons like, South Africa farm seizures begin, and South African government is now seizing land from white farmers. Trump definitely watched the segment because he tweeted about it. "I have asked Secretary of State @Sec Pompeo to closely study the South Africa land and farm seizures and expropriations and large-scale killing of farmers. South African government is now seizing land from white farmers. @Tucker Carlson, @Fox News." It's obvious that Trump seemingly didn't do any research of his own after staring at the TV, because if he did, he'd know this actually isn't happening. There have been no land seizures to date, no farms have been taken from white farmers without compensation, South African white farmers are not being murdered by black people, and the law which would allow these seizures hasn't even been passed. What used to be an online white supremacist theory now has the president's ear, confirming the views of people like Richard Spencer and David Duke that non-white people are the enemy. Spreading misinformation such as this can, Well, Carlson said it best.
If you create a news organization whose primary objective is not to deliver accurate news, you will fail. You will fail. The New York Times is a liberal paper, but it's also, and it is to its core a liberal paper, it's also a paper that cares about whether they spell people's names right, by and large. It's a paper that actually cares about accuracy. Conservatives need to build institutions that mirror those institutions.
Taking everything Carlson says as truth can have serious consequences when the person tuning in is the leader of the free world. If only Trump and Carlson were on bad terms again. In 2016, Carlson wrote, "About 15 years ago, I said something nasty on CNN about Donald Trump's hair. I can't now remember the context, assuming there was one. In any case, Trump saw it and left a message the next day. 'It's true you have better hair than I do,' Trump said matter-of-factly, 'but I get more pussy than you do.' The future president then hung up." Carlson has since argued this assumption.
How many women have you had sex with in your life?
A lot. Hundreds.
Because you went, what?
It was a short window, but I packed it full.
Cool story, bro. See you in the quad.